if anyone knows a place for a man to sleep, I mean, I take full responsibility. If anybody, even night by night, you know, I mean, it's a struggle for him. He doesn't really know anyone in Israel, and he has nowhere to sleep. And at the moment, he has no money. So the places that we know, he has already gone to.
There's somebody here at the table?
Yeah. Oh. And one of the men at the table doesn't have a place to sleep tonight.
Okay.
If you want to come over to me after the class, anybody, and it would be a very big kindness. I have this very, very strong feeling that what we need in Yerushalayim is a hospitality center. I really, really feel this. I've been talking about this for years, but I mean it. In other words, Yerushalayim is the place. If there's any place in the world where there should be an open hospitality center for anyone who needs facilities, this is it. This is the city of God. If it exists, then it's a big secret. You know, it's a very big secret because I don't know where it is, and I really feel it's the obligation of the people of Israel, the people of Hashem, to create such a facility in a real way. Of course, there are problems. The problem is, how do you ask someone to leave such a facility? One of the problems with such types of arrangements is somebody moves in for a week, for a month, for 6 months, for 6 years, for 60 years, 600 years. At what point do you say, I'm sorry,
time's up.
Yeah, time's up, and how do you do that without making the hospitality center into Sodom and Gomorrah? Like you're putting me out in the heat. I mean, it's freezing outside, it's snowing. Where am I supposed to go? What do you do about problems of crime and drugs and danger and alcoholism? I mean, there are problems, but I think all these problems can be solved. We just need a group of people dedicated to this idea in a real way. For each individual who needs Shalom Uvracha. We are studying this evening the Torah section of this week, the Parshat HaShavua, Parashat Re'eh. There is one sentence in our Torah section, the beginning of the 14th chapter of Deuteronomy, which speaks of the Jewish people as being the children of God. Banim atem laHashem Elokechem. Very beautiful sentence describing the closeness of the relationship between God and the Jewish people. Elsewhere in the Torah, it speaks about the Jewish people being the eldest of the children of God, the Bechor. Lo titgodedu v'lo tasimu korha bein einechem lamet. God forbid, it should never happen. We hope that death should be removed from the world, as the prophet Isaiah said. But the prohibition spoken of in this text is that if a person, God forbid, suffers a loss in their family, or a loss of someone who's close to them, they are not allowed to cut themselves. They are not allowed to cut their bodies. Lo titgodedu. They can't take razors or scissors or knives and start cutting or scratching themselves in such a way which will cause what's called here lo titgodedu. Uvelo tasimu karcha. They're not allowed to rip out their hair. They can't start ripping out hair. They can't cause bald spots over a deceased individual. So the commentaries ask, what's the connection between the beginning of the sentence and the end of the sentence? It could be that there's a certain limitation of what a person is allowed to do in terms of the laws of mourning. Well, why does the Torah start off by saying you are children of Hashem? Rashi speaks of the following teaching in the name of the Midrash, in the name of the Sifrei. And this teaching, my great teacher, Rabbi Miller, of blessed memory, Rabbi Victor Miller, he used to repeat this Rashi very often to us. He studied in a yeshiva called Slobodka in Europe. And he said in Slobodka there was a very serious emphasis on people always looking proper, on people always dressing in a refined fashion. And he said that the rabbis there would often quote this teaching. You can't start cutting away at your body. You can't start pulling out your hair and looking in an uncomely Such a word? Yes or no?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. What?
Yeah,
You can't look in a way which is degrading, because you represent Hashem. Because you are the children of God. The children of Hashem can't walk around with the types of marks and scars and baldness on their head that they themselves cause. I'm not talking about natural phenomena. Lefi she'atem banav shel makom. You are children of Hashem. When people see the nation of Israel, they point to them and say, these are the people who are most directly connected to God. V'atem ru'yim liyot na'im. You have to be in proper form. You have to look in an attractive fashion. How far does this go? I can't tell you. I can tell you that the great leaders of our nation, many of them, both men and women, are described in Tanakh as being very handsome, very beautiful. V'lo gidudim u'mekorahim. You can't be involved in these kinds of activities because that will negate the special relationship of God and the Jewish people. As a result of this text, it would seem that not only when a person is dealing with, God forbid, issues of mourning, may never happen to anyone, but even when they have to decide how to dress, when they decide how to appear, maybe a God-conscious individual connected to the people of Israel has to take special care and give great thought. Is what they're wearing, is what they're representing to the world, is it godly? The rabbis talk about Torah scholars who walk around with clothing which is unsightly, and how that may be some form of desecration of God's name. Maybe it implies maybe the negative. Maybe
Is that
the
your
negative,
grandson or yeah? Huh.
Maybe the negative association that people will have. Look at this so-called Torah person. Look at this person who is described in the Torah as the child of God. Look at them. Look what they look like. I don't want to have anything to do with them. And before they'll even hear the lesson, before they'll even hear the message, they will distance themselves from that person. And therefore, be careful. Since you represent the fact that you are children of God, therefore you're not allowed to do the kinds of actions which will distance people from the teachings that you want to represent. According to other schools of thought, the Seforno and others describe perhaps the interpretation of the text in the sense that a person should always be aware that even if, God forbid, they don't have parents, may all the living parents of all of the people remain alive forever. May no one ever have to mourn over anyone, not over a father or a mother or any relative. But if, God forbid, a person does not have a living father or does not have a living mother, maybe the reason why they are going to such extremes to express mourning is because they enter a stage of total despair. They're all alone. There's no one to turn to. They don't have that parental force. According to one school of thought, that's why the text, it's speaking about how one has to limit certain practices in terms of despair, introduces the sentence by saying, you are children of God. You are children of the Lord your God. Banim atem la'Hashem Elokechem. Therefore, even if someone is, God forbid, suffering from some kind of loss over lamet, over a deceased individual, they should remember that the divine being still is there. And lastly, I'd like to mention that the rabbis teach that this verse of lo tidgo didu, which gidida means scratching, scraping, cutting, also is connected to the word aguda. Lo ta'asu agudot agudot. Do not create fractions of different kinds of groups, of different factions, of separate groups, of separate units, of different elements. You'll be here and he'll be there and she'll be there, and we won't have anything to do with each other. Lo ta'asu agudot agudot. Work together, all collectively. You can't just pull in your direction and she'll pull in her direction and he'll pull in his direction. You know why? Because the Torah speaks about banim atem la'Hashem Elokechem. We're all children of God. We're all part of the same nation. We're all part of the same family. The Talmudic reading of Lo Titgodedu, do not create separate divisive forces in the community, is directly connected to the fact that you are children of Hashem. If we understood how unified we are, if we understood how closely related we are, then we would all be working together. We hope that each of us can live up to this charge of being children of God, and may we all work together to remove any forces of division, lovingly working together as one happy family forever and ever. Thank you so much for listening.